Alright, yesterday you guys learned about how to draw one-point perspective with almost like a road and boxes and whatnot. Today I'm going to show you two more ways to use one-point perspective to draw various things. So once again, you'll need a paper, a ruler, and a pencil. On your paper, go ahead, use your ruler and divide your paper down the middle. Now, this doesn't have to be anywhere specific. We're going to do one example on this side and one example on this side. So on this side over here, I'm going to go ahead and use my ruler to make my horizon line. Remember, the horizon line is where the sky meets the ground. And then once again, in the very middle, I'm going to put my vanishing point. These are where all of your lines are going to point to. Now on this side over here, we're going to go over how to draw letters. So actually, let me flip my paper this way and zoom in a bit. All right, so to start with letters, you have to draw a box letter to begin with. So the easiest way to do that is go ahead and draw a rectangle. All letters can be made out of a rectangle. So let's start with the letter A. I'm going to draw a boxy letter A that fits inside this square. Kind of like so. If you need to pause the video to get down how to draw a box letter, that is completely fine. You can just go ahead and play the video whenever you are ready. But once you get your letter kind of boxed out like this, you can go ahead and erase the lines around it. We don't need those anymore. We are going to treat this just like the squares that we did yesterday. So remember, we had a little square like this and we connected the corners back to our vanishing point. Well, we are going to connect all the corners of this A to our vanishing point. So let's start down here in the corner in the very left. Take your ruler. You're going to line up that bottom left corner with your vanishing point. Go ahead and draw a line. Do the same thing with the other corner of this leg right here. Draw a line. Now we can move on to this leg next if we wanted to, but there's still one corner right here. Now it's going in the opposite direction as this one, but it's still considered a corner. So we're going to line up the ruler with that little indent right there and draw it down to your vanishing point. Now if your A, say the legs of your A were a little bit further apart and your line went through this one right here, that's fine. You would just draw it until it met over here and then stop. If it just barely misses it like this one, like mine does, then you would go ahead and draw it all the way down to the vanishing point. So let's line up the bottom corner of the right leg of the A. Draw a line. And then the right corner of the right leg. And then finally, we're going to do this corner right up here. Now once again, if you were drawing this corner and it either ran down the line or the side of your A right here, or sometimes if your letters are scooted over a little bit more, you won't see this side. So just kind of use your best judgment, line up your rulers with all of the corners and edges, and if it doesn't look right, then you don't have to use it. But there you have what looks like a boxy A that goes on and on and on and on forever until it vanishes into the vanishing point. But just like our cube yesterday, we are going to go ahead and kind of cut it off and make it like an actual block letter and not a letter that goes on forever. So just like our cubes, remember whenever we drew the back side of the cube, we had to draw it parallel to the edge. So this bottom part of this A right here we're going to draw a line that's parallel right there. Now this line right here, you want to make sure it's going in the same direction. You don't want to draw it going up like this because that's not parallel to this. You want to draw it going in the same direction, kind of like so. And then mine barely has a little bitty spot right here. Like I said, if this part of your A looked a little bit different, you don't have to worry about it. But since you can kind of see mine, I'm going to go ahead and draw a line parallel to this one right here. All right, let's do the same thing with the right leg. We're going to scoot down, and this line right here, we're going to draw parallel. And this one's a little bit trickier, but this long diagonal line right here, we're going to try to draw it in the same direction. It's going to make a really long, skinny shape. And if you want to, you can erase the other lines so that you just have your blocky letter, and you should have a 3D shape. Now once again, if it didn't quite come out the right way, you could always rewind the video or pause it and try to fiddle with it a little bit more. If you have any questions, that's fine. You could always take a picture of your project and send it to me, and we could talk over Google Meet, or if you're going to be in class the next day, we could always talk about it in class too. I don't want you to get frustrated if something doesn't make sense. Just kind of move on and try to follow along, and we'll fix it whenever we can get face to face. So let's do, I don't know, what's another letter? Let's do a curvy letter over here. So let's do maybe like the letter P. So once again, draw your box. You know what? I lied. Let's do the letter T, just because I want to do another straight one. So here's your box to begin with. And just like last time, we're going to draw a block letter in there. Once we have our block T, you can go ahead and erase the lines that you don't need. And then let's practice connecting all of our corners back down to the vanishing point. So this one up here, we're going to line it up, draw it to the vanishing point. We're just going to move across our letter here, so we're going to move down to this next corner, draw it to the vanishing point. Now remember, this right here is still considered a corner. It's still where two planes meet. So we're going to line it up with that little indent right there. Draw it down to the vanishing point. Move down to this one. Over to this one. Now this one, whenever we get up here, if you line it up with your ruler, see how it just goes through your whole letter and everything else we've drawn? We don't have to do that one. But we do have to do this one because it will create a little bitty space, like so. Now if you're confused on which ones to draw and which ones not to draw, you can go ahead and draw them through the letter, and if they look weird, you can go back and erase them. It's a nice thing with working in a pencil, nothing is permanent. This one up here, you'll see it goes through your letter, so we don't have to draw that one. And just like last time, I'm going to go ahead and chop this up a little bit to make it blocky like our A. So, I have to do parallel lines. It's going to create this kind of long diamond shape. Going to go parallel to this bottom one. Straight down here. Still running parallel to both sides. And the bottom right here, the same direction. You're creating like another line of the T right here. Then over here, just to make it kind of match this side right here, we're just going to cut off a little bit right there. And then erase your lines. Now remember, whenever we had our boxes in the corners, you could see 3 sides of your letters. You could still do the same thing here. All of these left sides are considered one side of your letter. All of these bottom sides would be considered the second side. And then this front one is your third side. So you could still see 1, 2, 3 sides of your letter. Same thing with the A. You have 1 on the front side, 2 on the bottom sides, and 3 on the right sides. So if we draw our third letter right here in the middle, it's going to be over our vanishing point, so you're only going to see 2 sides of this third letter. So right in between your A and your T, go ahead and draw another box. If your A and T are too close together to put a box in the middle, you can either do it up here or down here somewhere. Just try to get it straight over your vanishing point. And then this time, because haha, I thought it would be funny, we're going to spell the letter, or we're going to use the letter R and spell the word art, because you guys are in art class. Once again, if you have to spend a little bit of time to make your letters into block letters, you can go ahead and pause the video and do so. Now this does have a curve in it. I was going to have you guys do a curvy letter before, so we'll do it here. And then at the bottom, underneath the horizon line, I'll show you how to do like an S and an O, because those are kind of what's considered the hardest, but they're not really that hard. They're just full of curves. So let's start with the top corner. If you line this up with your vanishing point, you'll see that your line goes straight through the R, so we don't want to do that one. If we go down to this guy down here, I'm going to go ahead and erase all these lines that we don't need. If you start with this guy down here, you can connect him to the vanishing point. And then this corner. This one's tricky. If your R is in a different spot than mine, you might have to draw this line right here. If it doesn't work, then don't worry about it. I think I can very, very slightly fit a line in right there. Yep, super skinny. We'll move down to this corner. It definitely works. And this one. Now curves is where it gets a little interesting. Instead of using a corner, because there's no corner to a curve, obviously it's a curve, what you do is you line up your ruler with the very outside edge of the curve, and that's what's considered your ruler. So if you, or not your ruler, your corner. So if you put your ruler on your vanishing point and you swivel it over, notice it still stays on the vanishing point. Swivel it over until it gets to the very edge of your R. That's where you can draw your line that goes down. Now this looks a little odd right now, but trust me, it'll look better in a minute. And now we didn't talk about the insides of the letters. The inside of the letter A right here was kind of too small to use it, plus the line would have gone through the A, so we didn't have to draw it. But the inside of the letter R right here, if you line up your ruler with your vanishing point, you might be able to get a little bit of a line. Mine is ever so slightly, and you'll notice I only drew it in the inside of this this hole in the R. Now if it does not work on your R, then you don't have to worry about this part. But if it does work, it just makes your letters look a little bit more realistic, a little bit more 3D. All right, just like with the A and the T, we're going to go ahead and chop it into a square letter. So you're going to do the parallel lines here. Now these are a little bit trickier, these really long skinny ones, but just kind of try to do your best to draw a parallel line. This angle of this R, make sure it's going in the right direction. The bottom side right here. And this is where it's a little more curvy, a little more difficult. Instead of drawing just a straight line, you got to draw a curve that matches that one. So it curves like this, so we're going to draw a curve that matches. Same thing with this right here. If the top of this curves right here, we're going to draw a curve that matches. All right, and then you can erase the lines that you don't want to keep. Now, the R might not have been the best example for this because it has these two legs where you can see on the planes on the insides of them. But in reality, you do only see two sides of the R. This is considered one, and then all of these are considered kind of the undersides. If you were to draw the T that goes over this, you would only see this front panel and these underside panels. But I didn't want to spell adder, so we did art. Alrighty, two more letters. We're going to do curvy ones, just so that you have practice with it, and then we'll go over how to shade things in. So I want you to draw one more rectangle over here. We'll turn this one into an S, and one more rectangle over here. We'll turn this one into an O. So go ahead, turn your rectangle into a block shape, or a block letter. The curvy ones are kind of the hardest ones to figure out where the lines go and whatnot, but kind of the more you practice drawing block letters, the easier it gets. And then over here, go ahead, turn this one into an O. And erase the lines you don't need anymore. So if we look at the S right here, it does have a couple corners. It's not all curves like this O. So what we can do is we can actually start with these corners. We'll line that one up, the vanishing point, and draw it back. This one, whenever you line it up, it just goes through the S, so we don't have to draw it. And then we go up here to this edge right here. This is going to be considered a corner. I know it's a curve, but just like we did with the R up here, we're going to turn this into a fake corner. So line up your ruler with your vanishing point right here and scoot, scoot, scoot it over until it's lined up with the very edge of your S and your point, and then draw your line back. All right, now these two right here, we do have two kind of pointy corners. This time, whenever you draw it back to your vanishing point, only go as far back until you hit the side of the S right here. You don't want to draw all the way through your letter or else it's going to make it look odd. But line it up with the corner and your point. Just draw it back a little bit. Same thing for the other side, the corner and the point. And draw back. All right, and just like how we made this curve right here an imaginary corner, we're going to make this curve right here an imaginary corner. So line up your ruler with your vanishing point and scoot it until it touches the side of the S, and draw it straight back. Now, like I said with the R, whenever you want to chop your S off and make it into a block letter, it's a little bit trickier with curves, but it's definitely doable. You just have to draw the same kind of curve over here. So you don't want to draw it like really curvy like this, because that'll look kind of silly. You want to follow the same shape that you have on the edge of your S right here. So we can't see this one right here, but you could still see the edge of the S right here. So same thing, you're going to draw the same curve you see until you run into the side of your letter. Something kind of like that. We'll cut off this little leg right here. And then draw the same curve until you hit the side of the S. And then erase the lines that you do not need. Now if you don't want this harsh line right here, sometimes you can kind of round it out a little bit and that'll be okay. Make the edges a little bit softer, or you can keep it exactly how it is. Whatever way you want to do is fine. And finally, we're going to do an O. It has lots of curves and it also has this hole in the middle, so we'll get practice doing both of those too. So there's no corners to start with. So what we're going to do is we're going to line up our ruler with vanishing point and scoot it until it touches the edge. And then draw your line down. Same thing with the other side. You're going to line it up with your vanishing point, scoot it till it touches the edge, and draw your line down. Now this one's pretty easy. That's actually the only two lines you have to do back to the vanishing point. And then to chop it off, you just follow the line that you created in the first place. Follow this curve that you drew for your O. I think I messed this line up a little bit. Let me redo it real quick. I did. It was supposed to be just a teeny bit lower. There we go. And then the inside right here, same thing. You just kind of want it to be the same thickness. And you're going to draw that inside edge. Erase the lines you do not need. Alrighty, so we are only going to shade in a couple things, just so you get the idea of it. You got to figure out where you want your light source to be from. In this case, let's go ahead and make your vanishing point right here your sun. So in this case, it's going to be shooting light in the same direction that your lines that you drew are going. So the bottom sides of these letters are going to be the lightest, and the top sides of these letters are going to be the lightest. Now, because your sun is technically behind your letters, these sides that are facing us, these flat sides, they are going to be the darkest because they're getting the least amount of light. It's kind of tricky to think about. You can do it different ways. So if you wanted your sun to be up here, these top corners would all get more light, just like whenever we did cubes. But we're going to go ahead and make it in the middle just so that it's consistent with all of them. So I'm going to shade in the T over here. If this is getting the most light, the number 2 spots, we're going to go ahead and keep those white. Our number 1 sides are going to be a nice kind of medium gray color. And then our number 3 flat side can be either a dark gray or a black, whatever you want to use. You could do this with color pencil and use different colors for each sides, so you don't have to make it look like realistic value. You could do like the 2 sides would be blue, the number 1 sides could be like orange, and the side that I'm making super dark could be, I don't know, purple or something. No matter what you do, it's kind of cool, as long as all the sides that are the same number stay the same. So all your 2s are orange, all your 1s are, I think I said blue, and then this front side is purple. And that kind of makes it look a little bit blocky and filled in. Curvy letters, we'll do the O down here. So the most light is coming on the top of the O right here, and then the edge would be kind of your light gray color. With curvy letters, you just kind of want to do an ombre, where it goes from your medium and then it fades a little bit lighter until it fades up into your white. Same thing with the inside right here. You can make it like a medium color until it faded up into a lighter color. Now, if you like the way this looks, you don't have to fill in the front area if you didn't like the dark right here. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to show it to you real quick. Like if you wanted to make the light source coming from the top, you could make these number 2 values the darkest because they're on the bottom. And then your number 3 values could be your light gray, your medium gray ones. Whatever you feel like doing is completely fine. All right, so there are a couple ways that you can draw letters with 1-point perspective, whether they're curvy, whether they're completely straight letters, whatnot. I'm going to post another video that goes over how to do the second technique that we're going to talk about. Well, technically the third if you consider the road the first technique, and then this would be the second. Once again, if you have any questions, please let me know. To show me how you did on this, go ahead and take a picture of it and turn it into the Schoology assignment in the, let's see, what are we in the space folder that's titled 1-Point Perspective Part 2.